Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Hit that like button for me right out of the gate. That would be great. I would really appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Today's video is regarding the Nancy Guthrie case and how the suspect may have moved around the house after removing the camera from the front door. So if we look at this image right here, we've seen this multiple times. The front door right there. If we go up to here and watch the suspect come to the front door, this is right around 147. And then after this camera is removed, I think he actually took this plant, and if you look at it, see how right there he's bending it, watch. He's sort of bending it like this, almost like he's trying to get the stem of it around, and then maybe he's going to use it to pull off the camera. I think he was going to remove the camera regardless. That's what his plan was. I think when we thought that he was trying to cover up the camera with the foliage was just what we were assuming he was doing, because it covers it up for a moment like that. But in reality, I think he was going to loop it over and then try to pull it off. Maybe he didn't want to rip his gloves or something like that. But we know at 147, he went in there to remove the camera because eventually he was going to be pulling a car up right there, and that's the only reason he removed that camera. Other than that, he wasn't really concerned about it because he had the balaclava on. He likely was wearing clothing that wasn't his until just recently, so he wouldn't be recognized by anybody. And he removed it just so that he could park the car there later. Now, there could be another person, as I mentioned in another video, that was driving the car. Maybe that's a walkie-talkie in his pants, and he radioed over to that person right after removing this camera. Perhaps he walked away, and then he radioed to the person once he'd already been in the house, and he's about to remove Nancy. He said, okay, pull it up. Then he pulls the car up, and then maybe both of them helped get her into the vehicle. We don't know, but that was perhaps a short amount of time that the car was parked there. It could also be that after removing the camera from the front door, he wasn't sure if law enforcement or somebody in the house had been notified. Maybe a phone call was made to law enforcement, etc. So he waited for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so to make sure nobody showed up. And they didn't. So then right around probably 2:10 or so, you pull the car up there. Right into this area, right there. In fact, I can even draw on the screen. So he pulls into the area right here and parks. And then after he parks, he gets out of the car and then goes into the house. Now, that's what we're going to talk about right now. So we see the map here, and I've been telling people that there is a camera on this pool house building, and it's right here in the corner. So I'm talking about right there, and then there's another one back over in this area, okay, right over here. So there's one right there, and there's one in the back. So now let's take a look at this video from Fox News, and this will prove to you that there is a camera there. Now there are floodlights right here, but look right there, that is a camera. And if you look, there is the solar panel for charging the camera. So there's a camera that was filming right here where the driveway is and where the garage door is, right in this area right here. So there's a garage door, there's a gate right here that goes into the backyard, and this camera was filming in this direction. Now we have to theorize. We know that at 2:12, a camera was activated, and it's outside the house. And we know it's outside the house because the sheriff said, well, it could have been an animal. After he said it picked up a human, then he said, oh, it could have been an animal. And that was him subconsciously letting us know it was outside, because if it was an indoor camera, that wouldn't even pop into your mind. I think we can all agree on that. And let's just take a look at this one right here. Again, here's the gate that goes into the back. Now, it's possible he came up like this and then jumped over the gate. The problem with that, though, is this camera here And we discussed all of this on long form on my show last night, but there's a camera right here. It would pick up the individual walking this direction, and then he would jump over, and then the other camera would also pick him up. So we don't know if one of them wasn't working or how it all plays out. Law enforcement knows that, but I'm just giving you some ideas about what we're looking at here. And then in this image right here, there's the other camera and the solar panel. Now maybe I can just scale in on this and you can see it a little bit better. Let me move it over, clear that out, and then here is the solar panel right there, and this is the camera, and that's filming the backyard. So those are two of the cameras, and we know a third camera was the ring camera or the doorbell camera in the front of the house by Nest. All right. And now here's a sort of a different shot, more over to the right. Now you can see right underneath the porch over here, there's a door right in there, right inside there, that goes inside the house, and that door was propped open. Now if you can look right here, see these pots? There was a whole bunch of potted plants. I've seen other images where there's like at least 10 potted plants, it seemed like, in there. And apparently that was used to prop open that door. Now if you look right over here, there is another pot, and the gate is right over there. So we were kind of wondering, which way does the gate swing open? And let's take a look at that. Right there, there's the gate. And let's play it. And there we go. It swings open exactly in that direction. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if that pot right there is the pot that perhaps propped open that door, according to Ashley Banfield's reporting, that back gate was also propped open. And then over here you can see some people moving underneath there, going in and out of the door right there. Now we've seen other video where the door is open and they're going in. See, there's a metal security door, and it looks like maybe they have it propped all the way open and maybe a pot holding it open. A metal security door, and then there's an internal door. The internal door would open inward, and then the security door opens outward. And both of those perhaps were propped open. Maybe it only needed to have the security door propped open, and the one inside was you could open it up and it would stay open on its own, like a lot of doors do. Now the security doors usually have some sort of a mechanism that'll automatically shut them. But you see, law enforcement was on the roof over here, and they were actually gathering up that security camera. So look right here. Let's just pause this really quick. There's the solar panel in dark right there, and the camera's right there. And then there's another camera off screen down below. If we go back again, there's the solar panel right there, and it looks like they've already kind of removed the camera off the edge there. Let's go back a little bit. Yeah, she's right there. She's removing it. And let's just go back a little bit further. And there you can see it plainly sitting there. Solar panel, and there's a camera right over there. So if you got nothing else from the video so far, at least you know now that there's two cameras on that building. We don't know if both of them were in operating condition. They look identical, so they're part of the same network, and they both have solar panels. And so all we have is the one motion picked up at 212 of a person, and it's one of the outdoor cameras. So it's one of these two. So you might kind of wonder, which one was it, right? Because we know after the person got in there, they also took out the floodlights that are right there. Right, so there's floodlights right there that were taken out. So did the person come over this fence and then come around, take out the floodlights, and then eventually go around this way to go underneath the awning and then into the door? But then wouldn't this camera have picked them up? So it seems most likely then that this camera right here is the one that picked up motion in the backyard, and the person didn't challenge the camera over here, even though he did prop that door open. So he must have known at some point he might be on that camera if he has to escape, for example. So what I think happened is the individual walked along the side of the house right there, went over this gate here, the pool gate, and then jumped over this little fence here. They're all really pretty short, easy to go over fences. In fact, this one, he could probably just open up this gate. And then he came in here. And then this camera up here picked him up. Then he went over, broke the light over here so that neighbors around the area might not be alerted to a light, or a dog might see the light and start barking, etc. So he broke the floodlights there. Then he came around and then went into the house, propped open the door, probably did it really quietly, propped it open. Then he went into the house, eventually gets Nancy Guthrie straight out of bed. I think she was in bed sleeping. Her phone, her watch were, not on her, but right next to her, next to the bed. And then she was awoken in the middle of the night. Law enforcement knows exactly when that was based on her heart monitor information. And then she was taken out at gunpoint out the front door. And I think they were actually just walking. I don't think anybody was being carried off the ground or anything. I think they were able to just get her out the door. Just like you know how you help somebody out a door when they're frail anyways? That's exactly how this would have gone down. And then maybe there was a slight altercation right near the front door or prior to that, and her nose just happened to start bleeding just before exiting the front door. And then out the front door, when you're dripping blood out of your own nose down, you don't step on your own blood as long as you're moving forward, right? You're moving forward, blood comes down, it would hit your foot or the ground, and then your next step goes in a direction where there isn't blood already. All right. Okay, I mean, I guess if you're taking little tiny shuffle steps like that, but generally people don't do that. Okay, so in the comments section, let me know what you think. We know now that if the person walked this direction, this camera here would have picked him up. And that could be when the 212 motion took place. All right, then he would hop over that fence, remove the floodlight there, and then walk this direction. But then you would think this camera would have picked up that motion. Those cameras don't care if there's floodlights or anything like that. They have night vision, so they would have been able to pick up a motion. Now, if one wasn't working, law enforcement would know that. But I think they probably both were working, and perhaps this camera over here is how they can sort of determine the time that the garage door opened. Maybe the motion sensor activated. I doubt it, though, because that would have just picked up the vehicle pulling up and driving away. But it doesn't seem like they have that information. Isn't that interesting? So it could be that this camera here was not working. They seem to know that at 9:48 and 9:50, the garage door opened from electronic information, not a camera right here filming it opening up, like it being set off at 9:48 and then 9:50. Also, you would think that right when the car pulled up, it would have filmed that or set off that motion sensor. So maybe this camera right here was not working at all, and it was only this camera that was working. And they could have came over that fence, and then this one still would have been the only one that picked him up as he came into the back and into the back door. Now, but to be fair, this floodlight over here, that could have been broken the night before, or maybe it was on the 24th, the 11th. I have a theory that, how they have the dates of the 11th and the 24th that they're really looking into? I'm actually thinking that there was other motion captured in the middle of the night, 1, 2 in the morning, that's very similar as the one that they detected at 212, but those were on the 11th and 24th, so they have a motion captured in the backyard late at night when nobody should be back there, and they're also having people check their surveillance cameras around that time because they believe that that person was surveilling the house back there. That's just a theory that I have, because you sort of wonder how would they even know that on the 11th or 24th. They said that they can't tell the date of the one rogue photograph that we have of the same person without the backpack. There's people that claim that that's on the 11th or 24th, but the sheriff, he has said that they don't know the date of that. Okay, and maybe they do know the date of that, and he's just trying to trick us so that we don't think, oh, it's the 11th or 24th. So just to visually represent what I'm saying, I think after they parked the car right over here in the lone wolf scenario, he would have parked it there and then walked around like this, hopped over the fence, came around, went through the gate there, perhaps came over here, took out the floodlight, propped open the gate. Propping open the gate on this side is not going to set off the motion sensor. Then he came around, and I'm talking about this motion sensor. And then he comes around and then goes underneath there and then into the house, and then probably, walked over into this area, and then there's a way to get into Nancy's room over here. And then Nancy was taken out, however you get out of there, probably something like that. And then out the front door, and then into the waiting car, and then driven away. And in the other option, let's just go about like that. The other option would be if there's a waiting driver. So again, at 147, you remove the camera, then they wait for 20 minutes or so to see if law enforcement shows up. And they've already got their backpack on, so it'd be kind of weird to have your backpack on, go back to your vehicle, take the backpack off, get into the car, then move it. So they waited about 20 minutes or so, and maybe there's another person that's driving the vehicle, and they're also away, and they're on the lookout, too, for law enforcement. That's why they have the radio. So right around like 2:07 or so, or 2:08, the individual then, after waiting maybe over in this area, kind of waiting silently, quietly, where nobody can see him, then he makes his move, and then he goes around. I believe he jumped over this fence here, and then came back over here, and then over this wall, and then came straight over here and did, if I was going to, do more of a direct line, I would just go like, so once he goes over this fence, right through there, then perhaps takes out the floodlights, then quickly props open the gate. Maybe he even goes over here first, grabs a pot, then props open that gate. Then he comes back around, goes over here, and then props open the metal door, then goes inside the house. Now, the door inside the house might just stay open wherever you move it to, right? So then he goes inside the home, and then confronts Nancy Guthrie in her room over here, then gets her out, and then they eventually go out the front door, and right before he is starting to head out, he says, move the car, So after he confronts Nancy in the room here, he might get on his radio and say, move your car, and then the individual in the car drives the vehicle around like this, and then parks it right there. Then perhaps both of them get her into the vehicle, and the one that took her out stays with her perhaps in the back seat, having a gun on her to keep her quiet, and then the driver continues to then drive and either goes this way or this way out of the area, okay? So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I think this is about as close as you're going to get to how it actually went down that evening. Do you think there's a person in a waiting car? I tend to believe one person could do this, and so far there isn't any information that there is a second person, but it does make sense in some areas to have a person in a waiting vehicle waiting to come pull up in front and then put Nancy in the vehicle. That actually supports the idea that was the mission the entire time, which I believe, that they went to the house to remove Nancy Guthrie from the house. They were going to take her out the front door. The back doors were open for an easy escape route, but they did go in there to abduct Nancy Guthrie, and we don't know what the motive is, but I believe it was an abduction for ransom that went wrong, and Nancy Guthrie probably didn't survive late into that same day. She probably wasn't even alive later in the day on the 1st, okay? So thank you all very much for watching. If you guys could please put out some prayers for our troops. Apparently one of the pilots in the war in Iran right now is missing after an F-15 was shot down. They did rescue one of the pilots, but one of them is missing. And hopefully we can still find that individual. All right, so put out your prayers for that. Thank you for watching. If you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, that would be awesome. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.